The Battle of Macahambus Gorge,
On June 4, 1900s, on Macahambus Hills,
located 14 kilometers south of Cagayan de Misamis, on present-day Cagayan de Oro City, Mindanao Island, Philippines. Filipino guerrillas led by Colonel Apolinar Velez routed and defeated the American forces. It is only known major victory for the Filipinos over the American Army on Mindanao Island. Captain Thomas Miller, company officer of Company H, 14th Infantry Regiment of United States Volunteers, led 100 men against the guerrillas who were either well entrenched or in accessible positions in the gorge, practically surrounded by an enemy they could not reach. In first assault, the Americans lost in a short time 9 men killed with 2 officers and 7 wounded, nearly all belonging to the advance guard. And while the other side, 1 Filipino guerrilla was killed. An attempt to advance against a part of the Filipino position was frustrated by encountering innumerable arrow traps, spear pits, and pitfalls, to which an officer and several men owed their wounds. To avoid getting annihilated, the Americans quickly withdrew, leaving their deads and most of the rifles of those killed. But according to Bautista manuscripts on the Philippine Revolution in Misamis Province 1900 to 1901 by Cagayanon historian Filomeno M. Bautista, the Visayan word Macahambus derived from the word Macalambus, which means to throw down. In 1900, during the local resistance war against the Americans, Colonel Apolinar Velez initially conducted an ambushes to the American patrols and able to kill 3 soldiers, wounding the 2 soldiers and capturing Captain Charles Duvalo Roberts. Colonel Velez, whom many believes a military genius, established his base in Langaon, where the Macahambus Hills was the gateway to the base of Velez and was chosen because of strategic importance. Since it had a narrow trail, a small fort was built on top of it. It was not easy for an animal or a man to go to the steep and narrow trail. A misstep would plunge from either to the Cagayan River or to the deep precipice on the other side. This fort guarded the Bukidnon villages of Talakag, Cosina, Lingion, and Dagundalahon that were famous for rich farm produce such as corn, rice, abaca, and cacao. It took weeks for the American forces to prepare for a military operation against the Western Mindanao Division. American soldiers were reported to reconnoiter the area several times of month of May, in which they ambushed the platoon of Captain Charles Roberts, killing 3, wounding 2, and capturing the said officers. But on the first day of June, the people living in Carmen were alarmed when they saw that big wagons of cannons, supplies, and other armaments were brought to their area by the Americans. Then on the night of June 3, 1900s, American troops left Carmen for Macahambus. Cipriano Capitan Ulong Vaminta ordered Hilarion Mandar to ride ahead of the enemy troops to warn the soldiers in Macahambus about the coming of the American soldiers in Macahambus. There was a detachment of soldiers headed by Lieutenant Cruz Tal that guarded the fort, and they were already prepared for the eventuality of an American offensive. They placed sharp and deadly stakes on either sides of the narrow trail. As the Americans were nearing Kabula, Apolinario na kalaban who was assigned to guard the area ran to notify the defenders on the hill. Lieutenant Taal instructed his men not to fire till they hear the roar of the cannon at the entrance of the fort. They were entrenched along the side of the hill behind the earthworks that extended from the entrance to the pass of the gate of the fort. The Americans climbed the narrow trail leading to the fort, and when they came close to the gate, the first man said, "Good morning!" In reply, the fort's cannon roared, and all the men went hurtling down the precipice. 3 times the Americans tried to storm the fort, but they were all driven back by the deadly fire of the Filipinos behind the trenches. The Americans were forced to retreat with heavy losses. They left their dead and wounded behind. Sharp spears mounted on wood and hollow traps with sharp-pointed sticks at the bottom made their deadly work on the enemy. Among the defenders of Macahambus Hill, only one died, named Apolinario na kalaban. The 3 wounded soldiers were Gabino Lumindas, Lucio Labitad, and Juan Hanulo. Colonel Velez, who was many kilometers away from Macahambus Hill, received information about an impending attack of the Americans through a messenger from Taal who ran all the way to the headquarters. But before Velez and his officers could reach the fort, they heard the cannon roar and rapid gunfire. After the battle, the victorious soldiers gathered the dead and the wounded Americans. The dead were buried near the fort with military honors accorded to them by Velez and his men. The wounded were brought to the field hospital for treatment, but most of them died and only one survived. On the area below the hill, 24 guns, a big quantities of ammunition, military equipment, medical supplies, and food were left behind by the retreating soldiers. A beautiful gold watch was taken from one of the dead soldiers, and Colonel Velez gave it to Lieutenant Taal as a souvenir from the battle which he won. Colonel Velez kept in his possession a pair of field glasses taken from a dead officer. A number of guns and ammo were thrown to the river but still were recovered by the Philippine Army. Colonel Velez immediately reported to General Capistrano about the victorious result. The general congratulated them and promoted Taal to captain and Bugler Puano to second lieutenant. So this is the story of the heroism of the Filipino Army in Macahambus Hill. May you like this channel, and if you are new, just click to subscribe and click the notification bell for the upcoming updates. Thank you. God bless.
Laban! Laban! Sige pa! Paglaban natin ang Pilipinas! Laban mga kapatid! Laban lang! Huwag matakot! Sige pa! Patayin mo yan! Patay ka ngayon! Mabuhay! Mabuhay! Pumatay kayo! Laban! Laban! Ayan! May laban ka! Tama ka! Mga Amerikano lumayas kayo! Maging libingan nyo ang Pilipinas! Mabuhay ang kalayaan!